आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरुणामाकृतिं स्मरेतेन विघ्नप्रणश्यन्ति सिद्धन्ति च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीतनोत्वनितरामितरानपीक्ष्यमङ्गद्वयं निगमशाखिशिखाप्रवालं हैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिद्रं विघ्नाद्रिभेदशतधारतरन्तरन्नः सर्वेषां स्वागतम्. So we were talking about mindfulness, and this mindfulness we know is a state now, and we are trying to achieve that. I've already explained that in yoga it is one of the best methodologies or established paths, and meditation as being a modern and a very used path towards achieving a state of mindfulness. Now, when we uh, split it into elements, what are we trying to achieve with respect to mindfulness? One is to not judge. The reason is being, once we start judging it, we will start fixating with that particular topic. So keeping that in mind, one is to attain a level of non-judgment and observance and acceptance. This will allow us to move forward. If something is happening, what happens next? If you're not able to accept the first step itself, then we will not go to the next step. So acceptance is also important. So, and being that presence is not just sticking to one particular thing. I'm not focusing on anything. I'm trying to hold my attention such that any kind of data that comes across, I'm able to capture it. So there are three different activities that is involved, that is observing, noticing, bringing awareness. And then we have describing, labeling, and noting it. And there is very little participation, and the participation is in a very particular way that has to be decided prior, like that. So these three things, that is describing, the first is observing, then describing, then participating. It is in three different ways. So the three components is intention, attention, and attitude. Intention, that is, what is the purpose? On purpose, what intention? The intention is to cultivate an all-round awareness. So that has to be very specified. Then attention, the paying attention, not to any particular thing, being attentive, attaining that state of being attentive. Then in a particular way, that is, or in a attitude would be in a particular way we are participating. So these three things are the components of this mindfulness. So this construct, these there are different kinds of measures, you know, meditative techniques. Different kinds of techniques have been developed to attain this particular state. There is a mindful attention awareness scale to see how much to measure it, and then there is some mindful inventory. There is inventory of mindful skillness, cognitive and affective mindful scale, etc., etc. Some ways to attain it, but none of them would be as effective as experiencing it. So to experience that, some of the tools that we use is meditation, like I've already specified. But apart from that, even the kind of different tools, also there are different kinds of models also used for this. This is just an understanding, informative, that's all. So there are three different ways, practice types, that is there with respect to mindfulness: formal mindfulness, informal, and then non-meditation based mindfulness. So in formal, it is basically involves a intense introspection of one particular object. So that means focusing very intensely on some quality of the body. So that is and that is where it is used in meditation, also meditation techniques also, where we are focusing on the breathing, and then we try to synchronize the breathing and the thoracic movements, the chest movements, and we try to sync it. When we try to sync it, we are in a certain state of focus to recognize everything that is going in and beyond it. This is one of the stages of yoga nidra. I had already mentioned that yoga nidra is a very good example of all these things. So in yoga nidra also, this is one of the first initial steps to get us into that state. So that informal mindfulness is where it is an attention given to everyday life. That is, instead of just doing something, we are in that moment, trying to, when we are. There was another concept that was given uh, called as a sweet meditation. That is when we have the cravings to eat some sweets, we try to overindulge, and people usually do that because of hypertension, and they get sweet source of this thing. The key is to enjoy every bit of it. It is called a sweet meditation. It is coming out of informal mindfulness, or rather, it is the other way around. How do we do it? We take one particular sweet that we, whatever is the craving is, having it in bits, having it over intervals, will help us to understand more about that sweetness, will help us to understand, observe more quality of that, madhuratva. When we talk about Krishna also, we explain him to be too much of pleasurable form, no? So we are indulging so much in that, we get a saturation point. We are in that particular zone. So that sweet what we are craving for, so that we don't overindulge, what we do, if we take any sweet, we take it in small bits, and that bits are the consumption is in intervals. So this is informal mindfulness. That is, we are trying to focus intensely on the attention. We are trying to provide too much attention on everyday routinely life, so that we slow the consumption of that particular aspect and try to get as much out of it as possible. That is being attentive to every detail of it. This is one way of invoking informal mindfulness. Then there is non-meditation based mindfulness, that is therapies. Basically, there is something called as dialectical behavior therapy, and one more thing, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, like that. So that is not related to our this thing, because it's all externally induced. But formal mindfulness, informal mindfulness, we have experience, and it is self indoctrined. So that can be used. And this, you know, this mindfulness, the state of mindfulness, has reflections in neurobiology itself. In neurobiology also, this state of mindfulness can be taken as um, a balance between prefrontal asymmetry. Basically, there is the relative left prefrontal activation, and then there is the there are stronger tendencies towards positive emotional responses. So the relative left prefrontal activation is related to an affective style characterized by stronger tendencies towards positive emotional responses, or our approach towards some oriented behavior. So there is the right sided activation also, that is associated with stronger tendencies towards negative emotional responses. So the left and the right have their own activation systems, and they activate certain things. That is, the left activates the positive, right activates the negative, or starts to reflect more of the negative part. Finding a balance between these two can be that state of mindfulness. That is what has been reflected. So these are some reflections with neurobiology. Of course, these need further prodding and all research and all those things. But there has been suggested neuro changes when a person reaches that particular state of mindfulness and then tries to process the emotions and etc. So that is the state of mindfulness. So with that, we conclude. There are different mindfulness techniques also. There are something called as the 3 minutes of mindfulness, where first minute is trying to simply notice the thoughts. Second minute is to be aware of whatever that is happening. That is the physical sensations, everything that is happening around us. Be aware of it, not to indulge in it. This happens in Yoga Nidra. That is the reason I'm saying that one should experience a session of Yoga Nidra. When we sleep, when we start, the first thing that says is we keep your eyes open for any sound. Identify, do not attach to it. That means do not try to find out where it is coming from. Identify it. Oh, there is an auto sound going. Okay, auto sound. Okay, it should not. We should not find out. Okay, it is going on the right or left or anything like that. Do not identify. Do not attach to it. Once you are attached to it, your mind goes over there. So labeling. That's all. It is just see. So this is the second minute, and then the third minute is it is to include expand that scope. That is the once I start with my physical self, I start with my breathing, I expand it, then to my chestal convulsions, then I expand it towards everything in and around me. So these three, there's this called as a 3 minute mindfulness. I think it takes more than 3 minutes to achieve that. But when we are in that, when over practice, it can be achieved within minutes. But technically, it would take more time. So this is one of the methods of mindfulness which can be um, employed. But I would strictly recommend going through one session of uh, Yoga Nidra, which is a very good tool to experience all these concepts. So with this, we end the concept of mindfulness. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्य प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण मही महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतिस्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि